Hello dear listener, the echo is still there. Be patient as Vince and I likely suffer from brain damage and that is the excuse I will use this time. Be glad though for we added segments this time around, a little more structure for this janky podcast. Enjoy the show.
Alright, well, we're recording. It'll be nice and janky. Hopefully the audio isn't garbage once again, but who knows? I don't think we ever will fix it until I decide to fork over the cash.
I mean, to be funny, to be honest, I should say, the quality probably matches the quality of the actual podcast that we're doing for now. So we'll just grow eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, but the fact that to get better audio quality for my mic, the fact that I'm holding it, is a little jank, to put it mild.
Yeah, big rip. Just ghetto holding the mic. It's a gorilla hold.
I don't have gorilla strength, so there's probably going to be at some point just you hear just tapping on the mic, just real nice and loud, as I hand it from one hand to the other.
Side note, you did repeat the word gorilla, so I just want to say rest in peace to my boy Harambe. It's been about 5 years without you. It's almost 5 years at this point. Rest in peace, sweet
Do you know the day?
I did. I have to look it up again just because at one point I was posting on Facebook every single year. It's been this many years without him. Gone but not forgotten. I also remembered his birthday at one point. So. It was to keep a meme that I've been going since the day he died.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you realize that, but like that set everything off.
I am aware of the death sparking everything. Anyway, this is the VR Shiz show. We talk about only the most important things on this show.
Clearly, that's what we were doing right now.
Yeah, so anyway, I figured it'd be pretty neat to actually organize this show and not make it just rambling and rambling and rambling. It'll be somewhat structured rambling and rambling and rambling. So I decided we break the show up into basically two segments, at least for now. Again, we'll probably figure out stuff as we go on and through the show.
Yeah, I think as we get more comfortable and start to evolve, we'll just kind of make it into something that works for us and works for everyone.
We'll evolve like Digimon.
Yes.
Not like Pokemon, because that's obvious and makes sense. Like Digimon, where it's just suddenly end up with like a weird fridge with wings or whatever.
Okay, to be fair though, the song for Digimon slaps super hard.
It does. The Digimon theme song is great.
So good.
Anyway, so the first segment of the show is basically going to be media something or other. I don't know. We'll come up with a nice snazzy name. We didn't come up with, this wonderful hit title of the VR Shiz show until episode 2, so who knows how long until our segments have names. But I figure we just talk about whatever media we've consumed in the last recent bit of time. I don't know. There's no specific time other than it's whatever we've been consuming recently, be it movies, music, all that good stuff. We'll be reporting on it, only the most up-to-date and current things, because I'm going to talk about District 9, because,
It was funny that you had mentioned the most important, like the most current and up-to-date things, because I'm like, we literally just watched like a 10-year-old movie yesterday.
Yeah.
So.
Most up-to-date and current things. 10 years ago was a lot sooner than 20 years ago, Vince.
That is true, yes.
I'm aware of how time works. I got clocks. You just look so disappointed at me.
I don't know how to respond. I'm not disappointed. I'm just like, how do I respond to that? I don't know how.
Yeah. But yeah, so we watched District 9. You had seen the film before.
Yes, I had watched that whole trilogy, if you guys don't know. Neil Blomkamp directed 3 different movies, starting with District 9, going on to Chappie, and then going to, I think it's Elysium. I think that's the name of the film.
I don't know his third one, so.
I've only watched the first 2, and I know of the third one, so that one I definitely need to watch. So you enjoyed Chappie, right?
Yes, so I had seen Chappie, like a year or two ago, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a very interesting film, but I hadn't seen his first film, District 9,
Mm-hmm.
and watching that for the first time was pretty interesting, because you do get a lot of the same vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very South African centric.
I mean, without D'Antwood though, without the band.
That is true. There was no D'Antwood with weird gangster trash people.
I unironically love them. I don't know why.
I haven't listened to any of their music, so I wouldn't know.
Different time, but it's something else.
All right,
It's definitely something.
I'll explore D'Antwood at some point, but yeah, District 9 holds up really, really well. I would say over. You said about 10 years ago the film came out.
I think so. I think it came out in 2010, if I'm not mistaken.
Do some hard-hitting research right now. Use your phone, Vince. That's what we have him
actually
for.
Checking right now because I don't remember. My dad and I had watched it in theaters, and I think even now the CGI stacks up.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you can tell it's CG, but it holds up a lot better than even some of the Marvel films. Some of the CG in that is just like, wow, he really said that was good right there.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 11 years and 3 weeks old.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So more than 10 years, in fact.
Yeah. It was
That's-
2009, which
crazy.
makes sense now because District 9. So.
Do you remember the movie 9 that came out? 9909?
So I really liked that movie.
It's great.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't get to watch it in theaters. I had to wait like a year or two, and I don't remember the reason why. But something happened to where
No, I saw it in theaters, and that was a trippy experience, especially seeing it as someone who was, about 10 years old or whatever when it came out.
Yeah.
It was such a weird thing. I'm watching it like, what on earth? This is super creepy. But it was a fascinating story. I watched some weird analysis of it a couple months back, and I'm like, wow. I really don't remember much of it, but other than that it was visually entertaining and an interesting concept.
It is a bit dark. I was 15 when both of those movies came out. Good golly.
Yeah?
It's just weird to think that I was that old. But, okay, we were getting off on a tangent there. So what did you think of the overall story and the main character, Wickus, and Chris Johnson, the prawn?
So the dynamic between them is really, really interesting because of how the story of the two characters is told. I mean, it obviously does the interesting concept of the alien is more human than the humans are.
Mm-hmm.
But I also find it interesting that as Wickus, spoiler for this 11-year-old film, as he becomes more prawn from being infected, it's just super interesting that he becomes slowly more and more human, more empathetic, caring. And so I thought that dynamic was really, really interesting. And like by the end, when they show that he's fully become prawn and he's still just...
He still maintains his shred of humanity.
Yeah. Even more so than when he was actually a human.
I think one of the coolest things for me is there isn't a crazy amount of action up until like the last like 20-30 minutes of the thing. Then it's just like nonstop.
Yeah.
But I feel like it earned it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like there's so much building up and tension in the first like hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
But then the ending is just so action filled that you don't realize that it's not spread throughout the entire film until you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously some of the villains are kind of cartoony.
I mean, yeah.
But it worked.
It
for
does.
What it was.
I mean, it does feel a lot more gritty and real in terms of sci-fi than a lot of other science fiction tends to do. Like, I think, I mean, obviously Star Wars is more high fantasy, but even things like Star Trek and any of the other big sci-fi films don't feel nearly as grounded as what Neil Blomkamp does.
Yeah.
Because it also sets it up in a different way because it is set in South Africa with such a different environment and culture. It feels more real, even though it is such a foreign place.
Yeah.
It grounds it in our world a lot better than setting it in the typical, New York, Manhattan that even the film pokes at, like the aliens didn't land in Manhattan or whatever. They landed in Johannesburg.
DC, they landed here out of all places.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with Chappie. Like,
Yeah.
you have the robotic police force and everything else, and it's weird to think that, like, we're so used to the stereotypes of here for when it comes to, like, cities and stuff like that. You know, New York is banding together to fight off the aliens. Probably the worst accent I've ever heard, especially because I can't hear myself too well right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
For that. But, like, going to a place that is, like you said, foreign, there's so much that you don't see that it just seems so realistic.
Yeah.
You know, the way that the prawns are treated and everything. I'm like, man, that's really harsh, but also, yeah, they're not human.
Yeah.
I might treat them that way.
Yeah.
You know, which, if you know, like, Neil Blomkamp's camp's background and just kind of the message he was trying to convey, I think it was done in a really, really well done way.
Yes. Yes. The story and motifs and everything throughout the film are just super, super well done. I mean, and a lot of that is carried into Chappie. There's a lot of similar themes. Not just the fact that it is in South Africa starring South Africans.
Yep.
It's also dealing with a lot of the problems of that country, a lot of the problems of that society, of private militarization, things like that.
I think the other thing is, like, sentience and understanding.
Yeah.
Just like you said, you know, with
what it means to be human are definitely both topics. It tackles them, again, in very different ways. One is more something totally alien, but it's very much alive, versus this is it really even alive? With Chappie?
It basically starts off like a child.
Yes.
And I still think my favorite part of Chappie, because I mentioned that to you before we started off, District 9, is the fact that they use like 400 PS4s to bring his consciousness to life. Still one of the funniest things.
The true power of the PS4.
I know. They could have just used like maybe $1,000 or $3,000 PCs, and I think they could have done the same job.
Well, yeah, but you know, South Africa, they have all these PS4s just sitting around, obviously.
I mean, Africa is known for the metals that are used in computers and PS4s and stuff like that. So
yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, I mean, this also kind of segues into the actual second part of the show. I mean, we could till the soil.
Yeah.
No, we could still talk about Chappie and Neil Blomkamp stuff for a while. Also looking forward to Halo. Apparently he's doing that from what I last heard.
If he is doing that, I am so hyped. Neil Blomkamp is an incredible director.
Yeah.
And if he respects the source material, that's going to be really good. I don't know if you've noticed that trend right now that it looks like a lot of video games are going to start turning into shows. They're doing The Last of Us. I'm hoping they're not doing the second one. If they're doing the first one, I'm fine.
Yeah.
The second one made me go to sleep. I think they're still trying to get BioShock off the ground. They're doing Resident Evil as well.
I mean, Resident Evil's been...
Yeah, but those are movies, and those movies they're like the Fast and the Furious of horror movies.
You're telling me they aren't high-quality cinema perfection in your eyes?
Clearly, if you stack up all 34 Resident Evil movies, I don't even think that's an exaggeration, because I know that there's a bunch of animated movies, so I count those as well. If you stack that up to the discography of Alien,
yeah,
you can see the quality difference. Clearly, Resident Evil is the greater of the two.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, if you've seen Covenant in like the last 3 Alien movies, you might actually agree with me on that.
Oh gosh.
I tried to like Covenant, and I was disappointed because I really wanted to, but what are you gonna do?
Is what it is.
It is what it is. Okay, so what are we segueing into?
So given the recent endeavors that we've been both having, I figured we'd go into fun things about building computers, since we just started off building your first big boy gamer PC.
Yeah. So it's funny thinking about all of that, because when I was a kid, obviously, I've always been into consoles.
Yeah.
And I've never really, up until like the last few years, never really understood the appeal of a computer for gaming.
Yeah.
I know I'm a pleb.
It's okay, we fix that.
Yeah, we did. I already bought Persona 4 Golden. I'm gonna play it tonight after this. But I can feel the disappointment right now. But
I couldn't care less.
so growing up, like I said, consoles were always better for me because they're a lot less expensive, not too much to maintain, and graphics wasn't really that much of an issue to me because, you know what my favorite game is? It's not really graphic heavy, so I don't really
I mean,
that.
for as stupidly priced as my computer hardware is and how powerful it is, none of my favorite games demand it. Like, the only one that really does is Red Dead, and that's the only one.
It's funny that when we always talk about that, I'm like thinking like, which one is actually physically demanding for his computer? And then I was like, it's just Red Dead.
Yeah.
But as I got older, started watching like YouTube videos, seeing people edit all of this crazy stuff, and I was just like, maybe I could do that, but I can't do that with what I have now.
Yeah.
And got to the point now where I definitely want to do some editing, and I know I need a computer for that.
Mm-hmm.
My phone is very limited in those things, and I know I could get that done, but I'd rather choose something that is stable. So we ran through the whole process. You ran through everything with me, which I think is amazing. And I think for the most part, we got a pretty good deal on everything too, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to wait a few months out, we could have gotten cheaper parts because parts are always changing in price and all that stuff. Plus, the new NVIDIA cards that I'm super hyped about are coming out. Plus, AMD is supposed to announce stuff. So a lot of, I mean, with computers, it's the second you build it, it's out of date. Kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. It's like getting the new iPhone.
Yeah.
And then like 4 months later, it's already obsolete.
Yeah. My favorite thing is Weird Al has a song called "It's All About the Pentiums," parody of "It's All About the Benjamins."
Okay.
And it's about just computer gaming in the late '90s, I think early 2000s. I think more late '90s. I don't remember when the song came out. Mostly because I probably wasn't alive, or if I was, probably not listening to Weird Al.
Yeah, fair.
But anyway, the song is hilarious because it has so many overkill aspects in the song. Most of the song is just generically talking about my computer's better than yours kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But the parts where he names like actual computer specs are getting close to being out of date. Because at one point he mentions I got 100 gigabytes of RAM, which back then, when you're dealing with maybe you got 1 gig of RAM and that's insane. But now...
Yeah, Google Chrome takes up like 8 gigs of RAM now.
Yeah. No, now you can get, like, if you're really going for overkill on like an editing machine, you want to get it, you can get like 256 gigs of RAM. Which is insane. You don't need that much, Vince. I see you.
I was like, not yet. I have to wait until I
your motherboard can't handle that. Your motherboard goes up to 128, and that's still too much for your needs.
I know, but eventually,
Eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, if I get good enough at it.
Okay.
But
I'm not helping you from this point on. You got to figure out what you're doing on your own. Once you know what you're doing, then you can.
Yeah, that's fair.
Know what you're buying.
Can you imagine taking the computer that you currently have and going back to the 90s?
I mean, I couldn't imagine taking this computer and going back to when I built my first one in middle school, at the end of middle school. Because my first computer, I saved up basically all of 8th grade, not spending hardly any money at all. Mm-hmm. And like all birthday money, all of that was just saved up throughout the entire year, like Christmas presents, all of that was just minimal, saved up to buy first computer. Because I had gotten a laptop for school. It was a used MacBook. It had 60 gigs of storage. It had 1 gig of RAM. It had...
Okay.
It was so garbage that after that I'm like, no, I can't use this because in middle school, let me tell you, Minecraft was popping back then. This was like a year or two after it had come out and when it was really starting to get big. And so I was playing that. And my computer, it could run Minecraft because you can run Minecraft on a potato if you really tried.
Yeah.
but it was annoying to deal with all of the problems, especially when friends had not gaming computers but nicer computers, and people told me, oh yeah, you can build your own and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, that's enticing. So I mean, initially I was just saving up for a nicer computer, and then I heard about building it, and so eventually went down that route. And that computer was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It was including keyboard, monitor, all of that, all the extras tacked on. It was almost $2,500. And yeah, it was insane. And then when I'm building my new one, granted, I learned about, I could buy from the used market and things when building my newer machine.
Mm-hmm.
And with that one, knocked it down to $1,800 with so much nicer components, because I was amazed at just how much prices had come down in the market. Yep. Because I had a 500 gigabyte SSD in the other machine, which was about $1 per gigabyte. This new machine has 1 terabyte, so basically 1,000 gigs, on a faster drive, and I paid $120 or something for it.
Good golly.
I was floored when I found out that's how much prices has come down. And even then, like I said, RAM and SSD prices are supposed to come down further, because with the state of the world at the moment, everyone bought overstock or bought in panic.
Panic bot.
I can speak, Vince. I'm
Yes.
good at English. Been doing it a while now.
Yes.
But so yeah, everyone went and panic bought all of the NAND flash storage, and so all of RAM prices and everything are supposedly going to come down, because there's just a huge
I'm hoping they come down with
stock in production.
because that's when I'm getting my next check.
Yeah.
I want to buy more storage anyways, because I already know some of the stuff I want to do, and I was talking to some people and they're like, yeah, you kind of need a lot of storage for that. I'm like, sick. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So
We'll upgrade your storage, get you nice deals.
Yeah. You did mention when we were talking about this beforehand, that you've never built a rig without something going wrong. And for me, that was also the case.
Yes. So I love building computers and dealing with hardware and upgrades and making it run fast and all that cool bits and bops. I don't go as deep into it as I could, mostly because I don't have the funds. Even as expensive as my rig is, it goes only up in price. So I love building computers. But again, as you said, I have not built one that has not had issues somewhere in the build. So we'll build up to your story.
Yeah.
Because yours is the most recent. So we'll go chronologically.
All right. Hit me with the first one.
So with my first rig, they always say, test it outside of the case, before you screw everything in, because then you're going to have to unscrew everything, take it out, pop it all together, figure out what's wrong, and then stick it back in, and all of that. So I didn't do that. I thought, nah, I'm fine. No, I did it. I tested it outside of the computer case, and I'm like, all right, cool. All of my parts work. This is good news. Screw it into the case, get everything all plugged in, all my cables nice and tidy-ish. And doesn't turn on. I'm thinking, what? I tested it outside of the case. Works perfectly fine. Screwing it into the case, something's wrong. So I take it out again, make sure I didn't short anything. I'm like, I was wearing my anti-static bracelet. Nothing should have shorted. Even then, any electrical discharge is going to do almost nothing. You can watch videos testing it, and it's like, man, it's not good for the health of your components, but it's not going to kill them for most part unless you do something really stupid.
Yeah.
But take it all out, test it again. I'm like, oh, it's working. something is wrong here because it's still not turning on at all. And this is my first build too, so I'm panicking like, oh no, did I spend all of this money and do something totally stupid? Hook it up to the case. Turns out, after trial and error, much trial and error, because normally a computer build is like an hour of building, cable managing, and then however much time on top of that to install and get it running. This computer, after 5 hours, I figured out there's a fan control cable, not a fan cable. It was a fan control cable in the case that, if plugged in, the computer would not function. It was the most bizarre thing because the fans were all getting power. It was just this external fan control cable like the case had that for some reason just shut down the machine. It was the most bizarre thing I had ever dealt with. Then, build number 2 comes along with my nice, snazzy computer with all of the super high-end hardware.
Is it this one?
Yes.
Okay.
It is, as I've nicknamed it, Flames, because it is red and orange with all of its pretty shiny lights. By the way, lighting has come a long way since I built my first rig, because everything in this new rig looks really nice with the lighting.
Yeah.
The lighting on my other one, my parents nicknamed it Simon because it just looked like Simon Says, flashing red, green, and blue and all that. It was real tacky. But anyway, with the new rig, get everything all set up again, buying used. So I figure out, a lot of stuff. Funnily enough, it wasn't any of the used parts of like buying from someone used, like someone handed me 2 sticks of RAM with basically no warranty or any of that. No, that was all fine. It was the motherboard that I bought at Micro Center. I went to Micro Center because they're wonderful and joyous, and we have easy access to one. If you don't and have never been to a Micro Center, you're missing out. They're gifts.
Yep. The one down here is really good.
And anyway, went to it to buy a motherboard, and they had one that was used open box or whatever, which means, take it, you buy it, it's a little bit cheaper just because it's open box. So I brought it, tested it, found out it was the motherboard after a long bit of testing because I had to test all of the other components in another machine to make sure that they worked. Eventually found out, yeah, it is the motherboard because the visuals it was outputting were all gross and distorted and everything, and I'm thinking it's the graphics card because that I got used for my buddy, and he was like, let me know if anything's going wrong, and I'm like, yeah, graphics card I think is busted because video's looking real weird. Eventually, again, figure out it's the motherboard. But the great thing about Micro Center is I bought, even though it was used, I bought warranty on top of that from Micro Center, and it was still cheaper than buying it new. So I brought it back to Micro Center, said, hey, yeah, this is totally busted. Told them the issues I was having. They're like, all right. Just took the motherboard, gave me a brand new one, so I basically just paid less for a brand new motherboard.
Nice.
And after that, machine ran perfectly smoothly. Then comes our dear friend Joe. With Joe, I got told, hey, work is paying for this computer, so I don't have a budget, basically. Which let me run wild with everything that I wanted to build and put into this machine.
I put an ice maker inside of my computer.
Yeah, liquid nitrogen cooling for the supreme overclocking on the CPU. That's that's stuff that people do.
No,
have you seen it?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It's insane what people do because most CPUs nowadays run at like 3 gigahertz, 3 to 4 gigahertz, sometimes above that, especially if you get a higher end one. People overclock it up to, I saw on recent video, it was 6.9 gigahertz, which is insane increase in clock speed for CPU and stuff. Anyway, so with this new rig, I decided, all right, we're going to get all of these nice parts, put it all together, do all that. All shows up, build it, and I'm like, wow, this went really well. Wait, I can't plug the fans in. There's not enough ports on the motherboard. So we literally had a functioning computer except for fans, which meant that he had an oven that would fry his parts if he really wasn't trying too hard. So eventually I had to buy fan splitters and get those. Computer works great. My back was thrown out because it was a smaller case, and cable managing in that just destroys your spine because you're leaning all over everywhere. Then he's like, hey, so work says they want me to have a second workstation, one at home, one at work. So we're going to build another one. I'm like, all right, cool. He bought basically all the exact same parts. So I threw it all together. He bought a bigger case, though, this time, which meant that, I'm not throwing out my back to cable manage. And that's the nice thing about giant cases is you can just shove all the cables off to the side. No one will know that you didn't organize them because it looks like you did.
Note to self, buy bigger case next time.
Yeah, that's the great thing is about cables is if no one sees them, they're organized. That's the biggest lesson you can learn.
I feel like that's my dad, but with the if they don't see them part out of there. It's just they're organized.
It's just they are.
They are. Yeah, they exist, therefore they are.
It's pulling Jedi mind tricks on you don't actually see this?
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
So yeah, then build the second computer. I'm like, wait. Hey, Joe, where's the graphics card? It's like, oh.
That's right, you were telling me about this one.
Yeah, he totally forgot to buy a graphics card for the new machine. So he just had a computer that he couldn't see what it was doing.
But it was there. It was present.
About a week later, eventually, he gets the graphics card installed. Yeah. I'm like, you remembered to buy the fan cables, but you didn't. You forgot the graphics card. There wasn't just a price discrepancy that you just forgot about. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Eventually, he gets a graphics card. He puts it in himself, and he was real proud. And I'm like, cool, dude. Good stuff. Graphics card is one of the greatest things to deal with because it's super easy to uninstall and to reinstall and upgrade. But yes, all of this brings us to your computer. So Vince, let's tell the fine dear people our story. I'll have you tell this one.
Okay. So the first issue that we had was with the case. When we had ordered it, they said that it was going to take 3 to 7 days to restock, right?
Yeah. So we got it from B&H. They're fantastic. They tend to be pretty cheap online retailer. Cheaper on many more parts than Micro Center is. Micro Center tends to have CPUs and motherboards cheaper. B&H tends to have a lot of other things cheaper. So we get the case from B&H.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we attempted to get the case from B&H.
That is a more appropriate way to phrase that sentence. Yeah, so we order it, and it's on back order for like a month. Almost a month.
It got to the point where they removed the, it's going to restock in 3 to 7 days?
Yeah. Because by the time it was like a week out, it still said 3 to 7 business days, and I'm like, it's been like 8 or 9, dude. Then they removed that, and I'm like, all right, Vince, they removed when it's restocking. We're going to cancel the order and buy it somewhere else. So eventually we do order the case somewhere else. But that was not the only issue with this.
No. Okay, so in the beginning stages of this, one of the first things that came was my motherboard.
Yes.
I remember I got it on August 6th, a few days after my birthday.
Yes.
Very excited. I think it was actually the first piece that I got. I stuck it in my trunk.
Yeah.
Because I meant to go show it to you that day because I had the day off.
Uh-huh.
We ended up hanging out, but I forgot to show it to you, so it just remained in my trunk.
Mm-hmm.
For what I know, it's probably 3 weeks, maybe. So then,
Which is to say that in Southern California heat, it would have been fried.
Yes, also that. But that doesn't play into what happened.
Unfortunately, that was not the issue.
Then, yeah, unfortunately not. So, I finally get the case after like almost a month. Get really excited.
I mean, it took 2 days to ship from Newegg.
Yeah, no.
It was just a month of waiting and then realizing it's not coming, buy it from somewhere else for like $2 more.
Yeah, no, Newegg was a monster. They were just like, hey, it'll probably come here, and then it came like a day or two before, and I'm like, oh, cool, thanks, Newegg.
Yeah.
So, I grab all of my parts, put them in my car, drive to your house at like 9 at night. We take everything out, put everything out, and then you just look at me and you're like, hey, where's the motherboard? And I'm like, oh, it should be in my car. Like, I left it in there. So I go back to my car. It is not in my car. And then the day before, I discovered something going on because we had hung out the day before with my trunk. So my keys, my remote, were just randomly popping my trunk open, and we don't know how long my trunk was open for. It could have been open for 5 minutes. But I ended up going back late to my car, so it could have been open for hours.
Yes.
So that's when I pieced everything together, talking to my dad, talking to you. I went home just to double check, and then I ran through everything with you, looked through all the messages, and remembered I left this in my car this whole time. My trunk was open for hours yesterday. And as you told me, the area that you live is kind of notorious for
theft.
Yeah. So someone ended up stealing my nice motherboard. I mean, it probably doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
it's a shame, but I mean, they'll probably get warranty coverage on it.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm sure the people that steal motherboards are the ones using them and buying and building computers.
Clearly. They know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Gosh. So I just looked at you and I was just like, I'm sorry. So we ended up reaching out to, was it B&H again? I think it was
yes, that's where we got the motherboard from, yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, hey, if you pay like $5 more, it'll come in like a day. And I'm like, sick. So I just did that.
Yeah.
Because I did ask them about it, but it was like, yeah, it was delivered that long ago. Don't want to risk it because, like the guy told me, he's like, I want to believe you, but we've kind of also been conned out of this stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm not even mad. It wasn't your fault. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
But they gave it to me. They were like, hey, here's a 15% discount, though. And I was like, cool. I'll take that. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I think I ended up getting it for like $150, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Which I think is what I paid for. I paid less for this one than I did the other one.
Yeah.
So that ended up coming, but I was just so bummed. My dad was there, and we're just like, he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I can't do anything about this, so I kind of have to be okay. I'm mad, but I'm also sad because rip motherboard.
Yeah.
To go buy another one.
Yeah.
And then the monitor that we bought.
Oh, the monitor is a whole ordeal as well.
Yeah.
Because the monitor that I initially got was from Newegg, a less than reputable seller that I figured out a little too late.
Yeah, because it was like one of their off-brand people, right?
Yeah, it was just some Newegg side partner business or whatever. And read about him, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of 1-star reviews. It shipped out 2 weeks ago, but all it says is shipping label created and nothing else. I'm not getting that money back, am I? I emailed them, no response at all, to cancel the order. Get into contact with Newegg. Eventually, it's getting canceled. In the process of it still, to this day. If it doesn't come back soon and Newegg doesn't sort it out, we'll be talking with the credit card company.
Oh, I need to. By the way, I need to go to the UPS store to download the to print out the label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're RMAing the monitor.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to step 2 of the monitor: buying another one.
Yeah.
Just like with the case, cancel the order, buy it somewhere else. Except
Third time's the charm.
yeah. Eventually,
Yeah.
get the new motherboard in. That one comes in like a day. Of course. We get it all set up. After the computer's built, smooth as butter. Everything's great.
Yeah, I'm actually
case,
using it.
Cable managed, fine, all of that good stuff. And then in the corner of the monitor, though, just says checksum.
Yeah,
And
I
it
don't
has
know
all these
why.
little information about it. And it's like, cool, thanks for telling me about the monitor.
And we
Please
looked
go away.
everywhere too. Like I looked on Reddit wherever I could find like the specific model, and nobody else has this issue. It's mostly just like color issues or pixelation.
Yeah.
But I looked, and everyone's like, "Nope, never heard of that. Sorry." And I'm just like, "Thanks,
Cool.
guys. Great.
Cool, that's
awesome.
nice.
It's exactly what I wanted."
Yeah, I mean, luckily it's from an actual reputable seller who's going to help you
Yeah,
and
it's not gonna be
warranty
too
it.
bad.
But yeah, there were a lot of fun things with your build.
Yeah.
It is working now, though.
Oh no, the thing is incredible. The fact that I was like, the first thing that I showed my dad, because he let me plug it in downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, look how fast this thing restarts. And he's just like, okay. And then like in 45 seconds, it's all ready to go. And he's like, oh crap, that was fast. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I downloaded a few games on it, looking into some other stuff. I'm going to be ripping some files this week for to help out a friend with like a fan project stuff.
Yeah.
So it's basically everything that I needed for it. You know, I told you that I was going to do some streaming, some editing, but mostly focused towards editing. Still going to play games on it, but that's my main focus.
A lot of cool shizwas happening there.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I think I'm going to start officially this Saturday
Nice.
because now we have it all built, and I'm just really busy after work this whole weekend. So I'm just like, I do not have the time or the energy to do this right now. I'm going to just do it on my days off, but I'm excited. You know, this is the first computer I've ever had. The thing works like a charm. Actually, the second computer I ever had. I didn't build my first one. You just bought it for other stuff.
Yeah.
But I still have that one. It's just sitting there doing nothing.
It's a nice paperweight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of it. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what I can do with it, push the limits on it. Thank you for helping me build that, because I would have been completely lost. So
Yeah. I love it, man. It's always cool to just see the final product, and then again, having it work, because every time it doesn't, as we have discussed. Yeah, fun times building computers. I love it, but gosh, do I hate it, and it causes me great pain.
That's how it usually is, though.
Yeah.
It usually is.
But yeah, we'll hopefully once you're all set up and recording, we can do more cool stuff. Eventually, I'd like to record on this computer, more gameplay stuff.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm planning to do on mine. You know, we'll be doing some cool, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Gonna see about the whole Discord mishap in like a week or two, because I want to give us some time to reset up and then make sure that my dad doesn't pull with us. But I mean, to be fair, it was hot this whole week, and today I think it was like 70, right?
Yeah, it was in the mid 70s, and I still can't believe it was 85 yesterday, and we're like, wow, it's 30 degrees cooler than the day before.
Yeah. I really just want to mention this. I don't know how much time we're already going over or what we're reaching at this point.
I mean, it'll be a long one.
Okay, I figured. But just because we saw what happened with the fires up in Northern California, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gender reveal parties, man.
My favorite thing is, did you see the meme with Dr. Doofenshmirtz? And it's just, if I had a nickel for every time this happened
twice,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, But it's weird that it's happened twice.
I didn't show you the one that I have, and it's a picture of the dog sitting in the middle of the fire.
Uh-huh.
And he's just saying, "It's a boy." It's... Yeah, I want to end it with that. I think we should probably end the segment with something outlandish that we've heard or confirmed.
Yeah. We'll do a weird news segment because those are always fun. I enjoy it. I used to listen to Cox and Crendor, and they had a weird news segment every episode, and that was always fun. So I'm just going to straight up copy that because it's always good.
Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So
yes. Anyway, that'll be the end of the show. This one went quite a little bit. It was good, though. Good discussion about Chappie and District 9.
And the folly of trying to build computers right.
Yeah,
without
don't attempt it. Have me attempt it for you so I can cry and suffer. I'll build you a computer.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to us. I'm Vince.
He's been Richard.
And this is the VR Shiz Show. We'll see you next time.
Bye.